Hello and welcome to the 41st episode of the Pirate Rugby Pod. We've got a jam-packed show coming up today covering the epic Champions Cup final, the historic Challenge Cup final, a scientific prediction of the end of the URC season, and the latest broadcasting news that affects you.
You can also check us out on TikTok, where we upload short form content all the time, plus our Substack, where you can get long read articles. If you sign up for free, you'll get a piece of content that we release every other day, near enough, sent direct to your inbox. If you haven't already as well, please check out our mini documentary on Jameson Gibson Park. For some reason, the target audience of that video didn't feel like watching it over the weekend. So if you could all go and watch it now and learn how he spent a best part of a decade living in the shadows of other scrum halves before emerging as one of the world's very best. But now to introduce you to our wonderful guest this week, a valuable friend of the show, killing two birds with his one stone, with his URC permutations calculator and also his life as a grieving Leinsterman. It is our good friend Cian, aka Rugby Kino. Welcome back to the show, sir.
Thanks a million for having me back, guys. It's been way too long.
It has been far too long. Okay, we're going to kick on with the rugby moment of the week, but not before I do the MANSCAPED Read. We are still sponsored this month by our friends at MANSCAPED. Have you got a Father's Day gift yet? Thought not. Today's episode is brought to you by MANSCAPED, the world leaders in below-the-waist grooming. Now, you may be thinking, I'm not getting my dad a below-the-waist grooming thing for Father's Day. It's just not something that I'm doing. Well, good news. There's plenty of things that Manscaped offer that aren't below the waist. You can get the t-shirt, which we like, or you can get the nose hair trimmer, which everybody needs. Is even beard trimmers, there's all the other stuff. So it all makes a great present. And if you use our code PIRATE20, PIRATE20, all capital letters, then you can get 20% off and free shipping on checkout. So I went to a wedding at the weekend and I thought, I'm going to make sure that I'm top spick and span. I'm going to use the nose hair trimmer before I go to this wedding. And I used it, and it's odd. I don't know if either of you two ever used a nose hair trimmer.
I have not.
It's okay. So, Cian, let's see if you relate to my experience. So, firstly, you do it, and it's fine, and it's, you know, it doesn't hurt or anything. You don't notice it when you're using it. But then, like the trimmed hair doesn't get collected by the trimmer. It just sort of goes loose in your nose. And so when you blow your nose for the next 24 hours, there's hair in it, like when you've just come back from the barbers. So that's a bit odd. And also, you end up with like stubble inside your nose with the short hairs. And it's a fairly bizarre feeling, Cian. I don't know if you can relate.
Actually, my story is much worse than that, because it was a cheap nose hair trimmer, and there's one thing you should never scrimp on. It's a cheap nose hair trimmer, because it will yank those feathers out of your nose, and it's right up there. Because not only does it hurt like buggery, you will sneeze your eyeballs out. So it's not a great combination of things. I mean, you're over a sink, so you probably won't make too much of a mess, but your eyes will be watering. It's not everywhere. It's not a pleasant grooming experience. So put some money behind a nose hair trimmer. When you start getting into being a slightly older rugby supporter, like some of us are, you start needing these trimmers more and more. You know, the nose and the ears and the likes. So definitely a worthwhile investment.
Yes, definitely get the Manscaped version. Code PIRATE20, 20% off, free shipping. On to the actual moments then. My moment of the week. I could have picked many, but I've gone for Vincent Cox's kick against Gloucester. It's 50-22 when he just, the most nonchalant, just jabs it on the toe, just boots it down, just a tight head prop. He was like running in the 13 channel as well. That's definitely a system that's gone wrong. And he just sticks it, nailed it first time. It's one of those where it's like sometimes when front rowers kick, they like, who was it? It was the Portuguese guy who did it in the World Cup. I can't remember his name. Francisco's going to kill me. Anyway, the Portuguese hooker who did it in the World Cup, they always make it look like they gave off the vibe of like, I've been telling them for years that I can do this and they wouldn't let me. And now I can do it. And there you go. Mike Tadger, that's who it was.
Yes.
So that was my moment. He just running out, jogs after it, just like, yeah, I knew what I was doing there. And he said after the game, just like, I just kicked it. I didn't know where it was going. So that was my moment of the week. Ender, what was yours?
Mine was the Sharks win against Gloucester, related to yours, of course. I just thought, yeah, this is a great moment for the URC, great moment for the Sharks. And yeah, just an important one for me. Like we all know how poor the Sharks have been this season in the URC. They shouldn't be that poor. They've got some superstars in their team. And what I liked most about it probably was just the celebrations afterwards and how much you could tell it meant to the players. Like even a player like Etzebeth, you could tell how much that win went to him. So I think it's great for the competition and just good for the URC, I think, to have one of our bottom sides winning the whole thing. So yeah, really good moment for me, especially for the URC. But yeah, let's hope the Sharks continue next season. They have to do better in the URC next season. And it has also opened up the fact that they're going to now qualify for a spot in the Champions Cup next season. So now you have to basically finish in top 7. The URC just makes this run in all the more exciting. So thank you, the Sharks. What about you, Keane? What's your moment of the week?
My moment of the week was definitely going to the British Library on Sunday and seeing A Hard Day's Night written on the back of one of Julian Lennon's first birthday cards in the same room as the Gutenberg Bible. It was a really amazing experience. I can't recommend it enough. You meant rugby moment, didn't you? You're going to make me say,
it's the theme of the show.
Yeah, I suppose it is. Putting aside everything, like try and make myself neutral somehow for 2 seconds. That has to be one of the greatest Champions Cup finals of all time, possibly club rugby finals of all time. It was absolutely nuts. They had us there right till the very end in the stadium. There were, I'm telling you, I saw Toulouse fans in tears at full time. not the single kind of wipe of the eye, like literally ugly crying. It was beautiful. I congratulated them. You couldn't help but do so. It was an amazing experience and match.
Yeah, my mate he watches rugby occasionally. He's not that into it. The only rugby matches he's ever been to is with me. And he went to that game. And afterwards he was messaging me like, it's Cardiff next year. Should we go to that? That'd be good. So definitely hooked on the experience. So if we just go through some listeners' moments, Poor Relations Rugby, who gave us a massive shout out on Twitter earlier. Thank you so much, mate. Says the scenes in Toulouse post game, the actual scenes actually in Toulouse when they're all watching the big screen and they're all going mental. Crazy, absolutely love it. Scumming Fly Half says, whoever that Sevens player who Toulouse got to play 9 for them, he could go places. Leslie says Blair Kinghorn turning out to be one of the best fullbacks in the world. Who knew? Someone called Madge said her moment of the week was nudes in profile. I mean, thanks, Madge. I guess this is the pitfalls of asking for these things on Twitter. Scarlet's Fever podcast says celebrating 7 years undefeated Pro 12 champions. Fantastic. Now, I do have myself a second moment of the week, and it is this. It is Ender's verified followers list. So Ender's been getting some big followers lately, and I'm just going to read some of them out to you here and now. So he's got there's just small accounts like Rugby Pass follow him, official Rugby Pass. Premier Sports Ireland follow him, all things rugby who we work with. Bernard Jackman, all the good ones, and then some other ones as well. So Jim Hamilton follows you on Twitter, mate. He's followed you for a little while. You've also got who else have we got here? Oh, I've clicked off it. Rugby Inside Line, a divisive Twitter account, well known. Styles themselves as a news account, debatable. And then the big one, Ben Smith.
Yeah, I was quite shocked at that one.
Wow.
Follows you on Twitter. Not the player.
I don't follow, now I follow him, but I hadn't. I'd heard him.
The other one.
Yeah. The one who is apparently also Jamie Wall. So that was my moment of the week, just how big and famous my friend is now. Anyway, let's talk about some actual rugby that actually happened. So first, Kino, you kind of alluded to it there. Before we talk about the actual game, the experience in the stadium, what a venue, what a day. Just CK tweeted the day she's sick of people asking her, did you have a nice day apart from that? But did you have a nice day apart from that?
Yeah, I mean, repressing all my emotional baggage now for just a minute, which I'm quite good at being an Irishman. It was an amazing stadium, absolutely, as a building, it was incredible. They really, really, really nailed the important parts of being of a big stadium in stacking everyone up high, like the climb to the seats, not great crack. But the view is absolutely right. It's like going on a mountain hike. You suffer through it then, but then when you get to the top, it's amazing. You really feel like you're right on top of the pitch, and the view is absolutely incredible. Like I could see exactly what was going on for the entire game. Um, Talking about, I don't think they were ready for the number of people that were coming. I know London's
Really?
a big place. Yeah, the pubs were rammed. Absolutely ram solid, and as was the fan zone outside. It was one bus with two bars in it, and they were, yeah, it was like something out of World War Z or something like that. It was just mobbed. About 30% of the people who were in there were standing in front of the bus in just a big lump. There was no order to the queue or anything. It was horrible. But once you got inside, actually, lots of bars, lots of space, lots of light. Easy to get a couple of drinks before the game. Absolutely grand. And yeah, as a stadium, wouldn't but recommend it. But yeah, local pubs. They, local pubs were not. Everyone was great. Everyone was friendly. The bar staff were not the fastest in the world. Unfortunately, this is yeah, end of nose, end of nose, end of nose. This is not the first time Irishmen have discussed this. The slowness of service at an English bar is just it's shocking. Shocking.
On these big event days, they tend to get like in just kids, just like anybody, just fill it up. And like I went to a bonfire night, and it was just shambolic. Like missed half the firework display waiting for one drink. It was like it's one of those ones like I've never really worked behind a bar, but I can tell them like, you stand over here, you do this, like you go there, you don't need to be doing that. Go over there and do this. Like
we were actually taught how to pour a pint of Guinness before we leave the maternity hospital. After we're born. So that's not an issue. The first Guinness that I had over there, actually, that was a mistake. It nearly killed me. I'm never doing that again. Never have a Guinness in a pub that you do not know is like in the top 1% of Guinness pubs in the UK, or you'll have a bad experience. So never doing that again.
If you ask Guinness, they'll say Guinness is the same everywhere in the world. No, it isn't.
No, bloody well, it's not. But yeah, other than that, then the Toulouse fans are absolutely brilliant. I didn't begrudge it them 1 second. They are great crack, well into it, highly knowledgeable, and very amicable. So it's like, yeah, absolutely. Lots of congratulating.
Did they bring
people.
a band?
And no, they didn't. There was a brass band outside on the concourse outside of the stadium on the day, which was suitably French. But inside it was, I think a brass band would have been lost in there. But the preamble for the actual match was huge anyway. So I don't think they really needed it. There was enough drama on the pitch to keep us going.
Yeah. So right, I'm going to throw to Ender now and Ender can give us his view, Leinster being his second team, and then Cian, maybe you can react to Ender's take on it. So Ender, 3 defeats in a row in finals for Leinster. People starting to throw the word Claremont around, which I think is uncalled for. What's your take on that result and that performance?
I think it's another tough one. I'm really relaxed about this whole situation. I don't think there's any sort of crisis at 10 or Leo should go or all this other nonsense you're going to read or listen to during the week. I think it was an absolutely fantastic game. They were just about beaten by the better team on the day. They're still, for me, one of the best teams in the world, if not the best team. And they were just beaten on the day by a better team, by a better performance. I don't think there are fundamental issues at Leinster that they can't get over the line, or they've some sort of mental incapacity like that they can't get over the line. I just don't think that's true. That's my take on it. I really do think they'll be thereabouts. Like, how have they reacted? It's been 3 final defeats in a row, but how they react to the first one, they got to the final again. How they react to the second one, they got to the final again. And in doing so this year, they managed to beat La Rochelle away from home and smash them in the quarters. So I do think they're genuinely going the right place. There's also been a lot of noise about, Leinster having no attack now because they're too focused on their defence. The defence was the issue last year that people highlighted. They did work on it this year. I think, the attack didn't click on Saturday, but I think Toulouse, I think a lot of that goes down, is credit to Toulouse, who absolutely destroyed any sort of Leinster momentum at ruck time. Like it was just what do Leinster refer to like a shit fight at the rucks. It was a reversal of, say, Leinster have been doing this to teams all season where they've just been making ruck ball a nightmare, slowing it down, dragging, kicking, all whatever you can, and that's exactly what Toulouse did in my mind. And that's like that. Like we've all seen those turnover stats. That's for me why Toulouse were there in the day and why they came away with that win. They absolutely just messed Leinster up at the ruck, and it was frustrating to watch from Leinster's perspective. I think they're like we don't criticize refs too much on this pod, but there were some questionable decisions. Like I did feel like a lot of the times they were slow to roll away, or they would constantly roll in a certain direction, which is quite frustrating. There were definitely a few instances of that, but that's exactly what Leinster do in certain games. But I don't think I don't think it's a crisis. I think that they're thereabouts again next year. I do back Ross Byrne. There's been so much. If Kieran Frawley had made that kick, which he was a couple of inches away from making, we'd be talking about possibly the best team ever or something. Like this conversation would be blown out of proportion in that sense. I think they were thereabouts. Ross Byrne, I thought, had an okay game. I don't think he had a necessarily poor game. I actually think he did look back. I did look back, and I thought he had some great moments. He's trying to put in for Johnny Sexton. He's not is that who people are comparing him to? I think so. And I absolutely think Leo O'Connell is the man for the job. That's my take. That's my initial take. I could be completely wrong, but I think people are blowing this loss out of proportion, and I think Leinster is still a fantastic side.
I love how two teams who are so different in their approaches to the game can be so even and be 15 all after 80 minutes. Like Leinster are like a big clockwork machine or something where you turn the handle and like they go through a process and then an outcome comes out of it. Whereas Toulouse, I'm massively oversimplifying, but Toulouse start with the outcome. Like we want to be over there doing this, and how do we get there? You're the best players. You play for Toulouse, so you figure it out. And like, of course, it's more nuanced than that. Of course, there's more training than that. But it is much more Leinster get players to follow a process. Whereas I feel like Toulouse are much more puts a lot of belief and trust and responsibility on the players. Of so long as you get the right outcome, we're not that fussed about how it happens. And it just worked on the day. And Toulouse do have that Real Madrid ness to them, where they are just that they are the spaceship of a team and things, which we Leinster don't have nothing of that about them. But Cian, to put you on the spot, if you were to change something about that Leinster team at the moment to win on the fourth attempt, what would you change?
Move Frawley about a foot to the right. No, in all seriousness, I think there's a lot of knee-jerk reaction going on in relation to this. And what I'd say actually is, if Frawley had made that kick 6 inches further to the right, would you still be saying the same things now that you would not in that circumstance? Would the people tend to overreact either positively or negatively to wins and losses and overstate things? If you didn't have an opinion before the game, how's one game changing? I mean, it is the full and final outcome of the season, but it doesn't discount everything that's happened before.
But does it not being 3 in a row change that?
Yeah, but it's 3 finals in a row as well, and like Toulouse didn't manage that because we kicked their asses the last couple of times, and La Rochelle didn't manage it this year because they misjudged the travel issues involved going down to South Africa and back up again. If not more than that, seemed to have issues all the way through after the World Cup. So these are teams who have had their issues and haven't managed to get through to 3 finals in a row. Yeah, they won 2-1, which is great, but you can't win something if you don't put yourself in the position to win it. Leinster have been in the position to win it. It's hard to argue that there's a huge amount in losing by a single point last year, in the last gasp of the game, and losing in the last 5 minutes of extra time in the next one. There's really not a huge amount in it. I mean, to say that there's something fundamentally wrong with the system because of these extremely marginal differences it's a dangerous thing, because then it's in danger of sliding down a rather populist route where, oh, this thing has gone bad for us now. Oh my God, what are we going to do to fix it? It's like, it's less than the margin of randomness in a given rugby game. Like, to go to extra time at all is highly unlikely in any given game. To be drawn at the end, I mean, you know yourselves how rare draws are. The idea of it being so close for so much of that, and then several things quite extraordinary or in as events within the match, or maybe even a little bit controversial, happen that kind of finally upset that equilibrium that's been there throughout almost the entire game, or certainly through the 80 minutes as a complete continuum. And to say that, you know, you can point to a thing in the system, go, oh, that's the thing that's definitely wrong with this. It's like, I'm not sure you can do that, really.
So if DuPont was playing for Leinster, would that have changed the outcome?
Well, then who's playing for Toulouse? You know what I mean? It's like every change you make from one to the other, it's like that has an effect on the other side. It's then a completely different system. So it's really hard to say. I mean, James Gibson Park played quite well. He was just under a lot of pressure. DuPont did some amazing things, but he was also really under pressure at the base of a lot of this. He threw some dodgy passes.
Yeah.
His kicking was immense, but he threw some dodgy passes, and you don't often see that from him. There's talk about a lot of unforced errors, and I think there were some from Leinster in the first half, you know, maybe nerves, but also there was a massive amount of line speed pressure coming from both sides and against each other. Everyone was thinking 3 steps ahead because you had to be, because if you weren't, you were already 2 steps behind. So I think change one thing. I think if I was to change one thing, I think possibly, and this is a thing I've been thinking pretty much all season, is I'm not sure Ross Byrne suits the attacking system that they have in place at the moment. Now, whether that involves then giving someone else a chance at fly half or adjusting the attack system, I'm not sure which of those should be gone with. I think Ross Byrne is a fine player, like he really is, with excellent kicking stats. But the attacking systems that Leinster use at the moment require a player who can require a fly half, or made easier by a fly half, who's able to retain interest by threatening the line.
Yeah, take it to the line.
And that was an issue on Saturday. So it requires, I think, one change or the other.
So interesting on that. So I wasn't expecting to bring this up, but I was just looking at fly half stats. It's for something I'm posting later this week. And Ross Byrne, this is only his URC stats. This doesn't include his European or Ireland stats. So it's a very limited sample because it is from the analyst.com, which only takes URC. In his 400 minutes, he's made 10 carries into contact in the URC this season. That is by far the lowest of any of the international level fly halves that I was looking at. So that is definitely a thing. I'm glad that the stats line up with your eye test there. That's a reassuring thing for me, that he's not a running threat. And there's plenty of teams where that works absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But it maybe just is one less thing for the opposition to think about.
Yeah, it's the depth as well. Gives time for the defense to adjust as well. So it's just, again, it depends very much on your attacking system. You know, if you're looking at very much a territory, you know, boot and bollock type of system, which can still function quite well, you don't necessarily need your 10 to be taking it to the line. You can be set quite deep if they're a good and accurate kicker, or good enough and accurate enough. But I just don't think what they have currently at Leinster and Ross Byrne are a great fit. Again, what changes? I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, just get the checkbook out, solve the problem. That's all you need to do. So, just the last thing I'll say on this game is it's so fascinating to see teams who are the big dogs in their respective league, the most successful teams in their respective league, come up against a team that they have trepidation about, and that's what makes the sport engrossing and makes it like these two teams don't very often play against teams that they think we could lose to these, and that's what makes them the big dogs. That's what makes them successful. And the moment for me that I think, and now I've not seen anybody else talk about this, so maybe I'm just talking nonsense, but the moment for me that changed who I thought was going to win the game was when Untermack, when the clock was in the red at the end of the 80 and Toulouse were in their own half, he was like, lads, give me the ball, I'm going to kick it out, we'll go to extra time. And he made that decision on his own terms when they were in possession. That for me was someone saying, we got this. I believe that we're going to get this result. So that was the first example in that game of someone just showing that, like, no, we are going to win this. I don't know. Do you disagree with me?
No, I have two things on that. One, 3 Champions Cup finals have gone to extra time. Toulouse have been in all of them, and they have won all 3.
Great stat.
There you go. And second, they were absolutely bollocksed. If they tried one more run, they were going to fall flat on their faces. So they needed their 5 minutes.
Fair enough. That's probably what it was, to be fair.
No, I'd say there's a fair whack at the first one as well. They have been in that position. There are some things that kind of are passed down through the genetic memory of a club, and I think Toulouse being in that position before and being in the crucible of the barrage and the top end of the top 14, it does prepare you better, I think, for these kind of really fight hot, kick heavy, 3-6-9 drop goal winning games. They're just more common in French rugby.
That was another point as well. I've already said that I was going to say the last thing, but the upfront confrontation of it and the high carrying is more akin to something that Toulouse will come up against in the top 14, because the top 14 is much more like that. So the way the kind of game went, I think it was more familiar to Toulouse. And like we said, it was still a very, very fine margin. So I think these are like the 1%ers that kind of held them across the line. Right. So there's our end of the Champions Cup chat, end of the pain for the Irish folk on the call. So let's talk about URC then. So we're about to jump into a huge weekend of URC, one of the most exciting URC weekends we've ever seen. And we've decided that nobody needs to watch it because we're going to tell you what's going to happen right now. So, Cian, you've been working on this calculator of working out the different permutations depending on who scores what. So do you want to share the screen, mate, and we'll have a look at that?
Yeah. This is one of my little boondoggles. I do just love putting together software systems for pretty much no reason other than my own kind of desires, and I thought that, well, maybe someone else might like these as well, so what the hell, I'll put it together.
This guy likes them.
A brief tour. So I'm just rearranging my screens here. A brief tour these are the last round results I've thrown in, and so they are all correct and accounted for. These are taken as a combination of the scorelines by Sports Forecast, one of my good friends off of Tinternet, who does put together these statistics, these prediction statistics together on a regular basis across all of the competitions. And that gives us a baseline, and I've used then the current bookies odds for the gap between the two, and then done a bit of a kind of a guess at whether I thought that would be more than 4 tries or not for each of the teams. and we've got a predicted table as things stand, given the kind of what we'll call for now the most likely outcomes.
So what you've done is you've got your Excel sheet and you've populated the predicted scores based on all that stuff that you just explained for the final round. So if we take it top to bottom, then, so if we start with the top four, we've got Leinster hosting Connacht, Glasgow hosting Zebra, Munster hosting Ulster, and then Bulls going away to Sharks. So Leinster Connacht first, then. So the bookies and the predictors are saying 33 points to 15 Leinster Connacht, with Leinster getting a try bonus point. That looks about right, Ender. Not sure your thoughts on that.
It does, and unfortunately, I'll be in the RDS for the first time to witness that. But I think that's a pretty fair scoreline. Now, we all know Leinster aren't going to put out the same team they put out on Saturday, but they're going to be pissed off, and they're going to put in a good performance to it, no matter who they put out on the pitch. But yeah, I think that sounds about accurate.
That's a good question, Kean. What kind of team are you expecting Leinster to field in this game?
I think it's going to actually be quite possibly a stronger team than we would have seen over maybe, say, the South African teams or
Ulster.
Maybe Ulster might be more the benchmark. I think we'll see a couple of the bigger players maybe on the bench, but it's certainly going to be a motivated Leinster team. Not only is it kind of fighting for potentially seeding in the URC, which is obviously now the only competition we're in, but also it is the last game in the old RDS before it's redeveloped. So there's going to be a lot of emotions. The well is going to be full. Should they need to go to it, and I think they're going to try and put a big score on Connacht, if at all possible, because currently they have a points difference with Bulls. They have a negative points difference of 15, so they're going to want to try and make up that balance. Bulls obviously have go away to Sharks, who are
I don't think
still hungover.
I don't think we need to discuss that, to be honest. I'll be shocked if the Bulls manage to stuff that up against the Sharks. Like that would be an all-time howler of a result if they manage to lose that.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can see it either. I mean, if Sharks could do us the favor keeping Bulls to 3 tries or less, but honestly, I don't see that either. The bookies given that at 11% probability of the Sharks pulling something off there. To be honest, I think that's pre-teams. I would put those odds down a little bit. I'd be shocked if Bulls don't win that at a fairly hefty margin.
Yeah, fingers crossed for a big crowd, though. That would be good to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the next intriguing result for me is then Glasgow versus Zebra. So you've got it down as a 99% chance win for Glasgow, which I think is probably erring on the safe side. So 39-9, though. I can see Glasgow racking up 50 in this.
Yeah, that is the bookies handicap. The 9 is the 9 for Zebra is the basis that was taken from the Sports Forecast website. I can see, Glasgow going absolute hammer and tongs on this, but that'll only matter if it comes down to points difference. The top 4 teams are all tied on wins. So after your log points, the wins are the next difference maker. So even if you draw and get your extra bonus points, we're on the same log point, it doesn't matter. Fewer wins.
But the points difference between Leinster and Glasgow, with the differential you've got at the moment, is still quite close. So it's 196 for Leinster, 184 for Glasgow. So if we added 13 points onto the Glasgow result, that takes them to 52? 52-9?
Let's do a live demonstration. Okay, so what are we looking for Glasgow now? What do we think?
Put 52 in there.
52.
So they would go above Leinster.
That would be enough. That would be enough.
I don't know, Ender. Tell me I'm wrong. I don't think that's beyond the realms of possibility.
It's not. No, you're right. Yeah.
So,
Like
See,
Zebra
I'm-
improved this season, but
Yeah.
they're still not gonna.
but like we said, Glasgow are just all they've got to do is go out and score as many tries as they can. Now, sometimes that can backfire, and teams just
Try to
get-
overdo it, yeah.
get
Play too
giddy.
much, yeah.
Yeah, I think this is the final round. I think a lot of it could end up a bit kind of defense optional, kind of game style. We could see a lot of very open games, a lot of very high scoring games.
Like the
that
Sharks,
has a-
like they're playing for nothing except for pride. So
Yeah.
they've all been partying. Will they rest the Springboks? Like, yeah.
for what?
The Wales game, the big Wales game, obviously. I think there's a chance of that happening. Glasgow got to be kicking themselves for not getting a point at the Lions, either a try bonus
Yes.
or a losing bonus point. That's
All right, let's not talk about teams kicking themselves for not getting any points at the Lions. Thank you, please, and thank you very much.
Right.
Good night.
And then, right, the other big one when it comes to the top four, Munster, Ulster. Now Ulster are playing for an Irish Shield here. That's the extra motivator for them. Now it is away in Thomond, so if I just check how many games have Munster actually lost at home? So at home, Munster have lost one, which I assume was Leinster.
Yeah.
Yep.
What are you thinking, Ender?
That's that is accurate. I think 27-15. There is no way for me that Ulster can pull this off. No chance. Munster are on fire. They're playing in Thomond. Yeah, no, that sounds about right. It could even be more. I could see them going up to the 30s. To be honest, with the way they've been playing.
I think you're forgetting about one factor here, right? Okay, so Munster are currently pretty much empty physio beds. They are on top of the table. They look like they're going to get home advantage all the way through to the final. This is not the Munster way. They are kings of the hard way. They don't do things easy. So there's got to be some whirlwind coming now to make things difficult for them. So they have the narrative then to go all the way and win it again.
Such a good point. Where's the narrative? It's missing the Munster narrative.
It's all too easy. So yeah, there'll be 3 red cards, 4 Munster. Ulster rack up 60 points.
Jack
And we'll blame Nusafora as well for all of this.
Jack Crowley to break his leg and then somehow be fit for the final.
No, you've just gone too far. You've ruined it. You've ruined it.
but heal miraculously in 2 weeks. A broken femur in 2 weeks. So I want to see a 24 points to 20 win for Ulster in that.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Ulster they pulled out a pretty decent performance against Leinster. I mean, I know Leinster weren't particularly great on the day, but that was a good performance from Ulster. Like they're capable of it. It was gritty, but it's exactly what I wanted to see from Ulster at this stage. Like they needed a bit of grit. Some of the moves of players like really worked. The triple with 6s, great move. He suits that well. Like, and I've been waiting for him to break through. Do I think it's likely that Ulster get a win? It's probably not. I don't think it's their time just yet for kind of the away heroics on the last day. It would take an awful lot, frankly. And Munster know how much they have riding on this. But would I discount it entirely? No, I wouldn't do that either. Seen stranger things happen.
You've convinced me with the narrative argument. That's completely changed my point of view.
Interpros are so weird, man. They're completely different from everything else.
Welsh derbies are weird as well. The wrong team in Wales always wins. So the other thing that's I'm saying so the other thing in this URC table that's just caught my eye is Bulls. 210 points difference in the positive, the best in the league, conceded 442 points, 140 odds more than Munster, and still have a 40-point better points difference.
Yeah.
What? That's not knockout rugby though. They're not going to get away with conceding this many points forever.
No, but do they have a team that can tighten up in knockout rugby? I think they do. Yeah, I think they've got the beef to do it. They've got the personnel, and yeah, I reckon it's it's starting to feel to me like it's Munster or Bulls season, frankly.
Jake White is going to stand there. What a final that would be, by the way. But Jake White's going to stand there at the front of the room with his flat cap that's 2 sizes too small and just go, boys, let me tell you how we're going to win this game. And then that's how they're going to go on.
It's already been written. Munster, the first Northern Hemisphere club side to ever win at Loftus.
Yep.
Yeah.
So revenge, plain and simple. This isn't about the cup, boys.
Oh, I'm so excited.
It's about revenge. It's about pride.
Yeah.
It writes itself. There's the narrative.
So the 5-2-8 or the race for 8, as the URC have called it, which is brilliant, genius. So the Stormers are safe. Let's assume the Stormers aren't going anywhere. I can see them losing at home to the Lions. I can see that happening because the Lions are such a fun team. And I've said, look, the Stormers are a bang average team being bailed out by their incredible players. I don't think they've been playing great all season.
No, they haven't. They've been up and down.
No.
So I can see the Lions getting something there, but it doesn't necessarily affect them that much. But it does affect them. Right, we'll come back to that. Ulster, I don't think we need to talk about. We've spoken about that already. Benetton, Edinburgh is the blockbuster one here because whoever wins that gets 7th. At least 7th and gets Champions Cup rugby. So there's everything on this. So you've got the scores down here
Sorry, hang on.
Oh.
7th doesn't necessarily get Champions Cup rugby.
Oh, what if 8th wins the league?
If 8th wins the league, 7th doesn't get Champions Cup rugby.
But that 8th team can't be Munster, so we know that won't happen.
The 8th, okay, yeah. But, what narrative is more filled with woe for Munster than the 8th ranked team?
They lose at home to the Lions in the semi-final.
In the quarterfinal. It'd be their first match at home in the knockouts. I really like this Lions team. I love them.
I love them. It's so fun.
Like, they have a scrum and heart. That's all they have.
Yeah.
And yet, and some really speedy outside backs.
Yes.
I'm not looking on jealously, looking at those speedy outside backs. But there's a lot to admire with them.
Okay, so going back to just Benetton Edinburgh then, you've got the score down there as 23-21 as the most likely score. Now I can tell you a thing here. Edinburgh, away from home, have not scored a single try bonus point, have not picked up a single losing bonus point away from home all season.
Oh.
So that suggests they've played 8 away from home, lost 4, won 4. The question for this game is, can Benetton hold their nerve for me?
Yeah.
Andy, what
I can see them doing it. Look, I think they started the season very strongly. They've been since then they've been up and down, but I would back them absolutely. At home, they've been getting good crowds all season. They'll be behind them. Yeah, I could see them just about getting there.
And on the one hand, they had a decent run in the Challenge Cup. And they had an absolute hames of a game to knock themselves out of it.
Yeah.
So it's like, which do you take? You take the slightly longer form or the once off form?
Speaking to the Spritz and Strums guys at that game, and they were in that game like, I don't know what we want to do with our season, because if we get to the Challenge Cup final, we've basically got to write off the URC. But to not finish in the playoffs in the URC based on the start to the season they had, they were top for a while, weren't they? Or second top?
Yeah.
Yep.
They were second, I think.
To miss out on top 8 would have been a disaster, or top 7 as it is now. So I'm going Benetton, and even for the stat that I just read out, I can see them doing it the hard way. I can see them giving themselves squeaky bum time.
It'd be great to have an Italian team in there. And if it's going to be an Italian team in there, it's going to be Benetton, because they ain't doing it anytime soon, unfortunately.
No, if you can't beat the Scarlets, you're bad. So let's talk a bit more about that Lions Stormers game. So you've got 28-22 to the Stormers. I can see a 43-39 or something to Lions in that, something crazy like that.
Oh yeah, easy. Well, I mean, I was going to get to a part later on, so I may as well do it now. I mean, the thing about statistical predictions. I mean, the book. Okay, I'll use the bookies as an example. The bookies handicap is usually the best prediction of this. It's usually about 70 or 80% right, which means that 20 to 30% of the time it's wrong, and it can be massively wrong because rugby is a pretty random game. So, I mean, for all that these are up here, I mean, there's 8 fixtures, 20 to 30%. You're talking 2 games. 2 games go another way, maybe 3. It's kind of quite likely that 2 or 3 are going to go the way that they're not predicted. So, which 2 or 3?
So if Lions get a try bonus, just put in there that the Lions win with the try bonus. It doesn't really matter the margin. What does that do to the lot?
They'd say they bump it up to a try bonus. Magic number 8. Yeah. I was going to my talk about this section down here. This is the table at the end of the last round.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
This is what's causing all the consternation now. 49 for 3 teams, and 2 of them are playing each other. Like, there is nothing in this. It will come down to which one of those 3 does slightly better than the other. Well, I mean, one will have to, maybe draw them, actually. So you'd never know. So it's which team does ever so slightly better than the other 2 on that block. Unfortunately, that does mean I really can't see Connacht or Ospreys breaking that hegemony, because it would require a fair kind of chain of stuff to go either way.
You got the Ospreys winning 22-17, which looks about right. I will say the Ospreys haven't got a great record on Judgment Day against Cardiff. Cardiff have won the last few, so I can see that going. Like I say, that in Welsh regional derbies, the wrong team always wins, and I just feel like the Ospreys season after that Stormers win, they got knocked out by Gloucester, then they took 60s back to back, and then they beat the Dragons, but they made hard work of it. I just feel like their season is just coasting to an end now. So, and also the fact the best they can do is 8th, and they won't get Champions Cup off the back of it unless they win the league. I just feel like they're kind of their race might be run.
Yeah. You know, it is hard to get yourself up for a dead rubber when you're being paid in luncheon vouchers as well. So unfortunately, I'm sure you're probably right.
Yeah. So the official Pirate Rugby prediction is. Oh, you put the Glasgow score back. Come on, put. Okay, I'm saying the official Pirate Rugby prediction is Munster Bulls, Glasgow, Leinster, Stormers, Ulster, Benetton, Lions for the top 8.
Okay, so
what a top 8 that is.
We had Glasgow going. What was it?
52.
50 burger. Oh, Leinster. Do we have Cardiff doing the job over Ospreys, or we have Ospreys slipping in under Cardiff?
Doesn't really matter at this point, based on the other results. Yeah, it doesn't matter tons based on the other results. I'm liking the look of that. That is exciting. That's exciting. So then you'd have a playoff of Munster versus Lions. That's so fun. Bulls versus Benetton. Yeah. Glasgow versus Ulster. Now there's a game.
It's tasty, yeah.
And then Leinster versus Stormers.
Yeah.
Stormers are a narrative team as well. Okay, right, let's quickly do these scores. These scores. And to pick me some scores for these playoffs, and then we can see what the semi-finals would be.
Really, you just have to pick who wins.
Just pick who wins, yeah.
You just have to. I'll put a 1 and a 0. That's all of today.
Okay, which one are we starting with? Glenn?
Munster Lions.
How far are we going?
Munster Lions. Munster at home to the Lions.
Munster to win by 20.
Okay, Bulls Benetton.
30. Yeah, Bulls by 15.
Bulls by 15.
Glasgow Ulster.
Benetton would be doing well to get within 15 of Bulls at home, I think. No offense to Benetton at all. I like them a lot, but Glasgow, Ulster.
Max 10. Let's change the Bulls one as well. You have to take into account.
It doesn't really matter. It
Pilot
just
off.
matter who's
It's
win.
win-loss. It's win-loss. It's knockout rugby.
Okay, cool. So we've got Glasgow beating Ulster for sure, and Leinster beating Stormers.
So home favourites win through all four quarterfinals.
Oh, Stormers have gone through there.
Oh God, damn it! Okay, well that's wrong. So we'll just
Type it in. Just type it. And then there'll be Bulls versus Glasgow.
And then it would be Bulls versus Glasgow. Transfer this across from the original online on Google Sheets to Excel, and sometimes funny things happen, and it looks like a funny thing has happened here.
Munster-Leinster semi-final at Thomond.
Munster-Leinster semi-final, probably in Páirc Uí Chaoimh.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I can't call that.
Yeah, call that one. Go on.
I can't call that.
It's Leinster
like
for me.
I feel like that's got Munster Heartbreak written all over it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Leinster taking it seriously and absolutely, yeah.
Woe finally catches up with Munster.
Yes. And then Bulls beat Glasgow.
At home, again. Yeah, very hard.
Probably be like 99, 90, 98 or something scoreline.
This is the final that I want. This is the final.
That would leave you with the final of Leinster going down to Pretoria. Face the Bulls in a URC
I want to
final.
see Leinster's first team go to South Africa so bad. I want to see them go and play the Bulls in Pretoria.
Or coming back to Ireland and then flying back to South Africa to play again at altitude.
That's more narrative. It sets up someone says.
It's all narrative. It's all narrative.
No, we're not going to predict the final. We're not going to predict the final. Because we don't want to ruin it for everybody. We've already given a reason for no one to watch the rest of the game. So we need to tune into them. Okay. Cian, that's amazing. Thank you so much. We need to crack on with the rest of the show. So, I mean, you're not going anywhere. Just stop sharing your screen.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Rugby around the world. Ender, what's been happening in the women's game?
So, New Zealand beat Australia in Pacific 4, meaning USA will be in WXV 1, which is great news for them. Australia will be in WXV 2, where they'll be joined by Japan, who beat Kazakhstan. Meanwhile, two huge results in the PWR. Saracens inflicted Gloucester Harpies' first defeat of the season, winning 33-31, whilst Bristol beat Harlequins away 47-25. Some cracking tries scored there too. Let's move to the Southern Hemisphere, will we, Hugh? I'll run us through some of the Super Rugby, or do you want? Yeah, you can take us through the Super Rugby results.
Moana got their fourth win of the season. They beat the Waratahs. Waratahs pretty hopeless at the moment, you've got to say. But you have to remember that Moana only won one game last season. And I think it was against the Waratahs again, last game of the season. They've won 4 now this season, so massive steps forwards there. And in the huge Canterbury-Auckland game, which we talked about, is that Rugby's El Clasico. Watch our pod from a couple of weeks ago to find out. Crusaders shocked the Blues. Crusaders, remember, this season have been terrible. Shocked the Blues, 29 points to 27. Very even game. I was looking at the stats at the end of the game. It was like 50-50 all the way. We'd need to do another permutations episode with Keno to understand who can make the playoffs on this, but since we don't have time, we'll just have to make do with watching the games when they're on. Japan League One, so it was the grand final on Sunday. Really tense game, really close. Wild Knights have been unbeatable all season and then lost the final to Brave Lupus. Richie Moanga's Brave Lupus, as we should call them. It was a dramatic finish as you could want, where Lupus were leading, Wild Knights were in their half. They went through 15 to 20 phases, crossed the try line, mad celebrations, all the Lupus players' heads in hands, all the Wild Knight coaches high-fiving, TMO, check, forward pass. Oh my God, talk about heartbreak. So,
and 50-odd thousand at the game as well.
56,000 people in attendance.
Wow.
I tweeted this the other day. There's no caveat to Japanese rugby. Oh, it's good, except no, there's none of that. If you like rugby, you'll like the Japanese domestic league. It's crazy. And then going into Super Rugby Americas, Peñarol picked up a draw against Dogos in a bit of a surprise, meaning that Pampas' lead at the top of the league goes to 11 points. They put 70 points on Brazilian Cobras. Oh, boo-hoo. Pro de deux. Béziers beat Brive in a pulsating game. I think that was another 33 points to 31. The mad celebrations at the end. Maz was messaging us throughout the game saying, I'm just absolutely going mad here. One of the most unbelievable games of Pro de deux ever. Grenoble beat Dax reasonably comfortably. Sam Davis, former Welsh fly half, had a great game for Grenoble. Some outrageous out the back of the door 30-metre try assists. Unbelievable. So Grenoble will now play Provence, who finished top of the league, whereas Béziers go to Vannes. We've backed Vannes all season, and I kind of feel that Béziers may have played their final now. They were so emotional after beating Brive. I'm not sure they can go to the well again, as they say. And then what happened in MLR, Ender?
So the Free Jacks lost away to Miami Sharks, meaning their lead at the top of the Eastern Conference was cut to 1 point. Houston are still top of the Western Conference with a game in hand. Shall we move on to the TV guys if we have time?
So, yeah, we do have time. Let's just go for it. So you tweeted a bit of an infographic at the weekend, mate, and it caused a bit of a stir. So this was Sports Pro. Is that the company, Sports Pro?
Yep, Sports Pro.
Tweeted the values of the Rugby TV deal. So why don't you just talk us through what that graphic showed and why it caused a bit of consternation?
So basically, they just did a comparison. They basically showed the top 5 most valuable domestic club rugby competitions in the world in terms of broadcast deals. Number 1, obviously, is the top 14 with their new agreement, which is worth a whopping 696 million. Now that includes top 14 and the Pro D2. But basically, annually, that means that the top 14 is worth 128 million euro, which is absolutely crazy. So they're number 1, obviously the top 14. So the graph is in dollars. So we've got basically the amount per season. In terms of top 14, they're clearly on top, 151 million. Next is Super Rugby Pacific, which is worth $81.2 million a season. But the big caveat with that figure is that includes rights to Australia and New Zealand national team games.
I think that's crazy cheeky, including New Zealand and Wallabies games in that deal. Like that, how much, Keno, speculate off the top of the head, how much of that deal is coming from those international tests? Bear in mind that Australia and New Zealand play more test matches than any other nation.
I was going to say, I mean, that's a fierce number of matches, but is it exclusive rights? Is it cable-only rights? These things are so complex. It's literally impossible to say what proportion of it is the international games. What you can say is it's going to be a fair whack. It's going to be a lot of money. I mean, New Zealand's international tests.
Yeah.
TV
So that's
rights.
when you look at Sky buying the Super Rugby rights as well. It's always Sansa rights, so that they're picking up the Summer Internationals, the Rugby Championship, etc. So, and we all know that's why Sky buy those rights as well. So it's probably, as you said, like impossible to put an actual figure on it, but that's what they have in this graph. So that definitely caused quite a stir, and so did the competition that came in third, which is the URC, coming in at $70 million per season, which is roughly, I think, 55 million pounds sterling.
Imagine we were allowed to include Ireland and South Africa test matches in that value.
Yeah. Now that figure has been hotly contested by a lot of people who are going a bit crazy at me, and I keep just pointing them towards the source of these stats. I didn't create these graphs, but yeah, nevertheless, they're having a go at me. Then we have the Premiership in fourth and it's worth $42.9 million per season. So we all know, I've kind of shared this a good bit, that their next right cycle, which is over the course of 2 years, it's only worth 31.5 roughly million pounds sterling per year, which is down from a peak of about 40 million previously. And then in fifth, we've got the Pro D2 worth 11.6 million.
It's worth saying as well that the Prem have got the shortest deal out of any of those, haven't they? Just at 2 years.
Just a 2-year deal, yeah. 100%, yeah.
Going back to the URC one, you have to remember that deal was signed before the URC was a thing. That was a kind of a gamble. Now, there's been a lot of churn as well because we had Viaplay take over Premier Sports and then go back again. Viaplay went bust. And the question that I see you get asked more than anything else is, how much money do the URC clubs make from TV revenue and how does that money get divided? But as you alluded to, Keane, there are so many broadcasters. There's 5 nations in the URC. There's so many broadcasters, and there's nothing to say that all of their deals are up for renewal at the same time, coming in and out. Like, so, and is it just going to be one of those questions that's just impossible to really truly answer? Is how much the URC is really worth?
It is, but I also know the source of this data. So, like, Sportspro did publish an article previously, and they said, you know, that's the original post where they said it's worth £55 million sterling per season, and they got that figure. They sourced themselves an article in the Financial Times, and in that article by the Financial Times, that was the reported figure. And I think they said something along the lines of, you know, somebody close to the deal said it was worth this in terms of revenue, and apparently the previous one was worth about £25 million sterling per season. So Sports weren't just pulling this number out of the air. They got it from the Financial Times. And that deal, so this was actually the first, so that figure is based on the URC as we know it now, which was basically, so most broadcasters signed up for 4 years. So that would have been the one originally signed with Premier Sports, RTE in Ireland, TG Card, they both signed up for 4-year deals. The BBC signed up for a 4-year deal, except BBC Northern Ireland, whose deal actually runs out this season. And I've asked for comment from the URC. They have not said if that deal is going to be renewed. The BBC Wales deal is on for another year, so they are set there. And that figure, of course, didn't include URC TV figures, but obviously the big one too is SuperSport, and I believe that's a 4-year deal as well. Which it's very difficult to test that or to validate that. I'd love to hear from a club themselves to see if it's anywhere close. But yeah, this number hasn't just been pulled out of thin air. Like, there has been some research done by this in fairness to Sportspro.
Who wants to come in there, Keane?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, it's a complex. I mean, that the URC one is a multi-nation, and I mean, not only nation, but geographical nations, and the rights packages within those can be extremely complex.
Yeah.
So the fact that they managed to put one number on the lot of it is great. You've no idea what distribution deals are then underlying that, and there's really no, without getting a full set of accounts. And to be honest, nobody wants to do that. I used to do that. Nobody wants to do that.
And even that reported figure for the Premiership at 31, like, again, that's what the Times are reporting. Like, we don't know, but you can always tell when they announce look at the difference between the announcement for TNT Sports and Premiership Rugby about their new renewal for 2 years. There was no mention of a figure, so it's obviously down, or else it was there the same. And then the top 14 come out and they're thrown out. Like, they provided those stats in terms of how much, you know, the top 14 is worth compared to 42 and how much of an increase it was. So both, you know, Canal Plus and Eleanor were happy to talk about that. So when competitions aren't talking about that, you know that the deal isn't fantastic, shall we say. But yeah, it's caused quite the stir.
Went digging around actually myself for viewership stats, which I kind of thought give us an idea of kind of where they're at in terms of each other, but also would give you an idea of how happy they are to publicize their viewership stats. Super Rugby
do not like telling people how many people
they're pretty
watch
keen on
their
telling
product.
people a percentage of increase and not actual numbers of anything. Top 14, very happy to tell people that their final last year had an average of 980,000 people looking at it on Canal Plus, not on public carrier. I think it might have been TV5, which was in the multiples of millions. It was ridiculous. So that is, you know, by far and away top of the pile.
I watched.
I wasn't able to
get.
Okay. Yeah, to the TV5 month. It was brilliant. So the other one who I wasn't able to get regular season viewership figures for was the Prem, which last year had an average of 349,000 on BT Sports, and that gives you an idea. You know, literally on cable subscription only basis, top 14 had literally three times the average viewership. and pretty much actually 3 times the peak viewership as well. It was 1.18 million peak versus 480k peak. So that's just for a final. It doesn't tell the whole story. And then regular season for Super Rugby, because of 2 areas. I got some for Australia and some for New Zealand. Australia, I think average was 166,000 per game free to air and 107,000 on cable. Now that's average viewerships, which, as you can see, is pretty low. New Zealand is reported as an average of 167,000 per round on cable, which is incredibly low, given that they reported a high of 482,000 for Chiefs Raiders. I'm not sure. It looks like it looked a bit dodgy. So it could be 167,000 per game, slightly higher than Australia, but really, really nothing to shout about. Whereas the URC, again, very happy to share their viewership figures. Regular season last year, they had an average of 231,000 per game. Which is, again, like I'd say that's combined statistics between cable and free-to-air. But nonetheless, that's a lot of eyes on the games. And the playoff games averaged 575,000 per game. So the URC doing pretty well in terms of the competition for eyes on games.
Exactly. You would imagine that the next deal, again, it comes into the complication of how many territories there are, because at least in South Africa and Ireland, you would expect that the TV deal to go up, and probably Italy as well, because the Italian national team's doing better and now Benetton are competitive and things. So, yeah, just exciting. But and to come back on the point about the French deal, are we starting to worry now that the French team might become uncatchable just because of the amount of money it's got compared to everybody else, in terms of like the competitiveness of the teams themselves?
I think so, yeah. Like it's a distinct possibility. I still think Ireland are going to be incredibly strong despite these numbers, just because of the way the funding model works here, and because everyone in Ireland who plays the provinces wants extra pay. Obviously, they don't want it, even if the money is better. A lot of them still decide to stay at home because they're looked after better and all that. So I don't think it's necessary. I think it's more of a problem, maybe top 14 v the Prem, but from a URC perspective, with an Irish cap on, I don't think it's going to be much of an issue. With Wales, obviously, it's definitely going to cause issues there. We've seen it in Scotland with a couple of players, but also both of their teams are funded actually quite well. So yeah, I don't think so. Like we've been talking about this for years, like because the last deal was worth, I think, 113 million euro a season as well. Like it was still a massive deal, much bigger than the other competitions. So I just think the top 14 is going to go from strength to strength, but I still think, like, especially, and sorry, the one big caveat as well, I think South African sides are still going to be, because we're seeing more and more players go back to South Africa now and play for.
And the talent pool is so ridiculous in South Africa.
Yeah, so I don't think it, but I think, yeah, for competitions like the Prem, I'm not just picking on the Prem, like just looking at the figures and the amount of high profile players who are leaving. And when you look at Wales, when you look at some of those players going to the Pro D2, obviously I think it's going to, maybe cause issues there, but I think from an Irish perspective, I think things will be okay.
Yeah, I would also add in just, lots of people talking about how French teams have won the last 4 Champions Cups, and how the Sharks winning the Challenge Cup is the first time a non-French team has won it in 4 years as well. Having looked at the numbers, I can tell you that 2 or 3 French teams going deep across the 2 competitions is normal, but that means there's another 11 French teams that get knocked out pretty early on, and they normally do. The top 14 overall win rates is the lowest of the 3 participating leagues. A lot of teams get knocked out very early from the top 14. So I would say that your likes of your Toulouse are always going to be at the top, but they always have been, and because they're one of the juggernauts of club rugby. I because of the talent pools, because of the way it works, so many different nations, I think particularly the South Africans and the Irish will always be able to put up a fight. I don't think they'll probably. And also, just by the way, Toulouse, if you look at the GIF coefficient of Toulouse, which is how many homegrown players they have, by far the top in the top 14. So yes, they have megastars that they pay a lot of money, and they're able to retain them, which is the big thing, but they produce their own talent more than anybody else in France.
Yeah, I think actually the GIF system is more the reason why the French teams are doing so well now. They were basically constricted into spending money on their academies and developing these players, and there were payments to be made if you transfer GIF players from their original club up to your own. So there is a transfer market there, and there's a way of getting money from the better off clubs to the smaller clubs. But not only that, but the GIF rules, and they increased over time. They constricted the number of non-French players you can spend money on, and the amount of money that these French teams have wasn't going down. So they were able to spend more money on better players and from outside of France, and improve the quality of the homegrown players that they had as well. That has just absolutely been an amazingly successful project.
Yeah, I just the security as well now for the top 14. Like it's 2024 as we speak, and this next deal isn't even start kicking off next year. It's not kicking off till the 2020s, like till 2027, and it's running until 2030. Like it's mad. Like that fun. Like imagine how they're like when they sit down and plan their figures for the upcoming seasons. Like they can actually see how much TV revenue is going to come in, and that it's just going from strength to strength. French rugby, even and especially even the Pro League, like it's incredible.
The other one thing to bear in mind about the top 14 is, yes, it's a very large deal, but they also have by far the most number of matches of any of the leagues, because they all play each other twice. There's no.
Did you work that out? The per match.
I did a little bit of sleuthing and a little bit of working out. It's 191 matches per season in the top 14, which works out at €790,000 per match on the basis of that deal. Which is actually less than Super Rugby, which has 91 matches. This is including the knockout matches, by the way, because obviously they're part of the deal, which actually gets 890,000 per match. So in terms of player minutes, the Super Rugby deal, well, the Super Rugby deal that also includes the Australian and New Zealand internationals. Yeah. So we have absolutely no idea. It's probably close to equivalent-ish on a kind of a game-by-game basis with the top 14. And then the URC and the Prem. The URC has 151 matches per season. The Prem has 93 currently. But on a per match basis, their TV deals are worth the same. They're 460k per match each.
Yeah.
I think the cat has muted you.
That's it, saying you'll never know the fantastically witty and insightful thing that I said. But the cat did mute me, yes. Okay. Right, that was an extremely highbrow and interesting discussion, and I'm glad that we had it. I can't be bothered to do my TNT rant. I'll do it next week. But long story short, to watch the rugby, I paid TNT 30 quid, and it is 30 quid that it's a good job they've got me over a barrel. Otherwise, I wouldn't pay it. Anyway, and what's the actual Rugby TV guide for this week?
Yep, so with plenty of rugby coming up, we will have all the fixtures out as usual on our Friday morning breakfast pod. But just some news as well on the broadcasting front. S4C are going to show Wales v South Africa this summer, so on the 22nd of June. That's good news because that game wasn't due to be part of Sky Sports' summer coverage of international rugby because it was outside that window and outside of that deal. So that's great news. It's also great news for women's rugby because S4C are also going to show Wales women playing Spain on Saturday, the 29th of June. So both of those games available free to air, which is brilliant. And also World Rugby Under 20, the Under 20s Championship will be shown on Rugby Pass TV this summer. So that's, again, great news on the free to air front. So plenty of rugby coming up this week, but we'll have it all out in our Friday morning breakfast pod. I think that's pretty much it from us. Keno, massive thanks from me. You've been brilliant as always. Thanks a minute for coming on.
No bother at all.
Yeah, that was a fantastic show. I'm really can't wait to listen to it back. Just a reminder for everybody, with the Friday Breakfast Show, you get a free newsletter if you sign up to our Substack. The link for it is in the Linktree link in the description box below. Definitely sign up. And then a reminder, you can get 20% off and free shipping with the code PIRATES20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code PIRATE, all caps, 20 at manscaped.com. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we shall speak to you on Friday.
Thank you, folks.